All right, Eric, welcome to another cool rock podcast. I am so psyched you're here, being a big fan of you and Booked on Rock. And I'm really looking forward to this. What are we calling this? Best Books of 2025 slash holiday gift guide.
That's it, man. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Steve. I love the podcast. What you've got, not even a handful of episodes yet under your belt, or
I
about
think
there.
you'll be a handful. You'll be about 18 or 19, I think, somewhere around there.
Oh, it's
So
that many. Okay.
yeah, we'll try to get this really quick because, of course, we are falling headlong into the holiday season, of course. And I wanted to put this together with you because, like I always do, being a regular Booked on Rock listener, I get some great recommendations from you, and I'm a huge reader, and there's always stuff that I want to get turned on to and I want to check out, and so I figured you were the man to talk to.
Oh, thanks. And you, at first I said, let's just do five. And I was like, no way am I going to come up with five.
Right.
I mean, I got, how many books I read, a couple books a week, and that's, over a year, spanning a year. Just to trim it
Right.
down to 10 was difficult. That wasn't easy.
Right. Right. Well, I'll tell you, I've thought for a while now, at least for a good number of years now, that we've really been in a terrific era for music books. There's been so many great autobiographies, biographies. There's so many of like these classic rockers get older and they're getting big book contracts and they've got something to say. But also through the years, there's been these very compelling books on different rock scenes and individual albums. One came to mind from a couple of years ago, Nothing But a Good Time, which is half my record collection and just
Right.
crystallized for me so much of the music I love. And then you've got great books that coincide with the anniversary of great albums. You learn so much about the recording process and things like that. So I just think we're kind of in this golden era, which is perfectly timed for the success of Booked on Rock, because like I mentioned before, I'm forever getting turned on by authors and by books that you're showcasing on the podcast.
Yeah, who knew? I've said this before. I thought I'd probably have enough to maybe do one episode every couple weeks,
Right.
maybe once a month. And you go to Amazon, you look up all the new books that are coming, and it's like, oh, okay. No, there's quite a
Right.
few that are coming out. And Motor Books, you guys, the work you've done at Motor Books is just phenomenal. So, I mean, you just the ideas are coming your way, the offers are coming your way, and it's just a matter of
Right.
just trying to keep up because you were real busy a couple months ago.
And we will be again soon. In full
Yeah.
disclosures, I do work for a book publisher. I don't know what's on this, like one would do whenever you see a gift guide for the first time. You don't know what's on it. I mean, you do. I don't know what's on it.
Right.
I don't, and I've offered no promotional consideration or bribery to just
Right.
showcase my title. So I, so from that point, we should get started. It's
Let's
up
do
to
it.
you how you want to do this. We're talking 10 titles, but I mean, I'm not going to pin you to what's the best title of the year or whatever, but
Well,
just look for
yeah,
great recommendations.
I did 10 to 1, but I also tried to really
Perfect.
spread it out among the different genres and the approaches to these books. And the perfect example is my number 10, which is Travis Kennedy's The White Python World Tour, a novel. And one of the things I love is when you have somebody who takes rock and roll and real, actual live rock and roll bands or stories, but then creates a fictional story around it. I'm fascinated with that stuff. And I've had a few authors on who have written books like this. Now, this particular book, it's a satirical, nostalgic novel. It's about a character named Ricky Thunder. He's a young drummer for a rising 1980s hair metal band in Los Angeles. He gets swept up in a covert CIA operation to use his band's music to spread democracy and spark rebellion behind the Iron Curtain during the final days of the Cold War. It's a coming of age story. It's espionage thriller. It's comedy. And it's so well written. In fact, Travis was telling me that at the time I interviewed him, that it was in the works to become some kind of television film. I'm not sure. We're going to see, but I'm not surprised because the story is so interesting and you will be into it from start to finish. And there certainly could be a sequel to this. Yeah, it's a great story. I love these fictional stories, but he's got some Van Halen references in there. I
Okay.
think there's a Brown M&M's thing. So
Right.
so that's what it is. You're mixing the two and you come up with this amazing story that's totally independent of anything that you normally read in these books, which most of them are, biographical or
Right.
autobiographical.
Nonfiction. Well, right away you hooked me because I do not read a lot of fiction, but this sounds so damn creative and such a cool premise
Yep.
that
From
I
it
will
as
check
an
it out.
interviewer, okay, from the standpoint of an interviewer, these are the most challenging for me because you can't give away the ending. So I'm trying to come
Oh,
up
of
with these
course.
questions, but you don't want to give away too much. So you're trying to create some suspense while also giving somebody some content to listen to in the podcast episode. So they're always a challenge for me. So Travis Kennedy, The White Python World Tour, a novel. Find it wherever books are sold, as they say.
Right on. Right on. And we should know too that yes, all these books are available now. They came out this year. You can
Yep.
find them at your favorite online book retailer, independent bookstores, have them order it. These books are available.
Yep, absolutely. And all of these episodes, all the books I talk about here, I interviewed the author. So you can go to bookedonrock.com. You can go to the episodes page and just type in the title of the book in there and you'll find it. Just there's so many. I'm up to like 340 episodes, Steve. What
That's
the hell?
crazy.
What the hell's wrong with me?
In a short amount of time, too.
I need help. Yes. I need help reading more books. All right. So we want to move on to number 9.
Sure thing.
Number 9. Oh my God, this is so funny. And I didn't even think about this. It's a Beatles book.
All right. Number 9.
Number
Number
9.
9.
As you know, there's so many Beatles books out there, and I always welcome any Beatles book. But I wanted to zero in on one particular one that I covered this year. It's called Ribbons of Rust, The Beatles Recording History in Context, Volume 1, July 1954 through January 1963. The authors are Jerry Hammack and Robert Rodriguez. It's a detailed look at the young Beatles, their formation from 54 to 63, placing their recordings within the cultural, the social, and musical landscape of post-war Britain, covering influences like American rock and roll and skiffle, their Hamburg days, their early EMI sessions, deep dives into recording details, historical context, little-known facts for fans that not all the Beatles books have. And there are a lot of great Beatles books, and apologies to all the great authors I've had on. Just so many Beatles books. I think I've covered the Beatles more than anybody, but I wanted to zero in on this one because 2 reasons. One, it emphasizes the world around the band, showing they didn't create in a vacuum. Okay, so all of the influences.
Right.
Listening to
Which people forget about, I think.
Yes. Listening to radio, all of these things. But it also includes QR codes, so you can hear the music that inspired the band. You could also see the newsreels as you're reading through the book. So it is a fantastic job that they put into this book. Again, Ribbons of Rust, The Beatles Recording History in Context, Volume 1, July 1954 through January 1963. I believe they said that this year, 2026, will feature the next volume, and they plan on continuing.
It's a great premise as far as those 9 years, because so much has been written about from, say, Revolver and Rubber Soul on, certainly from Sgt. Pepper's. It still blows me away that no band has had more of a productive 3 years than the Beatles did from 67 to 70. I mean, it's just insane. It's totally mind-blowing. But preceding all that, these guys started recording very early as a young band when recording technology was so rudimentary. And I think they were recording before George Martin got involved, correct?
Correct. And you're gonna see pictures of the studio where they first recorded and how it looked. It was just antiquated, but also who influenced them? What were they listening to that influenced them and eventually forms the unique sound that is the Beatles. One point to make is you mentioned it, the rapid advancements that they made from, say, Revolver moving forward, especially when they get off the road. They stop touring. Now it's just strictly in the studio. And I just covered a book called Backbeats, and the author, John Lingen, he names 15 drummers that helped to shape rock and roll and kind of guys that stood out to really push the genres forward or do something real significant. And he brought up a great point, is that Ringo often takes his lumps, because John and Paul and George, were just phenomenal talents. But Ringo kept up with those rapidly evolving sounds in the studio and challenged to keep up. And
Right.
have you ever heard any inkling of any complaints from John or Paul or
No.
George? I mean, he was doing things that, you know, were essential to the sound of the Beatles. Ringo is underrated for sure.
Right.
He's inspired many.
I mean, they never did. They brought in Clapton to do the riff on My Guitar Gently Weeps, right? The solo there.
Right.
I mean, they certainly did some different things. Billy Preston. They never brought in anybody. Oh, Ringo's just not grabbing this track. Let's bring in some. It was. I bet you it wasn't even a thought.
No,
I mean, he evolved with them so perfectly, and yet he was always Ringo.
always Ringo. I love the story. Is I think it's on Here Comes the Sun where he's tapping on a suitcase,
Right.
doing those little
Yeah.
things. You know, that's old school. I love it.
Yep.
I love it. All right, number 8. I think you're a fan of this band as much as I am. The Cars.
Oh yeah.
Love the Cars.
Very influential.
Peter Aaron moving in stereo. Rick Ocasek, the driving force of the Cars. And Peter confirmed it's Ocasek. I keep hearing both Ocasek, Ocasek. Okay.
I've
But it's
always heard
Ocasek.
it mostly as Ocasek. Now
Okay.
I'm gonna have to make sure I correct myself.
He was born, it was spelled Otcasek, Ocasek. So therefore you have Ocasek. He
Sure.
removed for whatever the T. Peter Aaron moving in stereo. Rick Ocasek, the driving force of the Cars. It explores the life, the career, the creative process, the enigmatic personality of Rick Ocasek. And he was an enigma. I mean, he had his bandmates that didn't even realize for the longest time that he was married previously and had a child
No kidding.
when he was living in the Baltimore area. When he
Wow.
meets up with these guys and they start the band in Boston. Yeah. Songwriter, details his journey from early bands to global superstardom, the unique songwriting style, the production work that he did. Weezer
Sure.
stands out, cultural impact. And it's all through interviews and research. Now, I want to know, I did not read Bill Janowitz's book. He's got a new one on the Cars. So in fairness to him, I haven't read it. I'm sure that's phenomenal too. So I want to put that out there. His is called The Cars, Let the Stories Be Told. And I'd love to have Bill Janowitz on the show. I should reach out to the publicist to see if he wants to come on. He's done some interviews.
It's good to see that band get their due. And I don't
Thank
think they
you.
really
Yeah.
I mean, certainly musicians, a lot of people will cite them as an influence, but I don't think as many people do as they should. Nor do I think, and maybe this was because they were really off the scene for a while. There was no cash grabs. There was
Right.
no big reunion things with Rick,
Right.
right? I mean, the new
And they
cars
could have.
was they could have easily, right? I mean, even the Police got back together for goodness
Right.
sakes, right? But I mean, nobody was doing that 10 years after the Cars broke up. Rick did his own thing. Of course, Benjamin Orr sadly passed away far too young. And they were so influential. And I just think it's anecdotal, but I just think a lot of people may have forgotten about them.
Yeah. What's interesting in reading the book, Rick Ocasek, his issue by the end of that run, which they did the Door to Door album in 1987, and it did okay. It didn't have any major hits on there because the chemistry had internal battles primarily between Rick and Ben. Ben wanted to have more of his songs on the album. Rick, he just wouldn't relent to that. He wanted to write the songs. He had no problem with Ben singing, but what eventually was starting to get at Rick, which is, it's hard to believe, but he was starting to resent the fact that people didn't see him as an individual talent. They felt like without the Cars, you're nothing. And I thought that
Wow.
I never would have thought that he felt that way because he didn't seem like that type of guy. But again, you talk about that music business and people start getting in your ear. You don't need the Cars. You're Rick Ocasek. You don't need them,
Right.
And that's because they did get new management and things like that started to happen. And it really hit Ben Orr hard. I mean, he really was a downward spiral into depression and a lot of drinking, and all those guys, they just didn't know what to do. And that album, Heartbeat City, Mutt Lange.
Oh my goodness.
That. Yeah. Drive. You might think Magic.
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
huge
That was
album.
a massive. I mean, it was the perfect confluence of
Right.
amazing songs, great sound, radios, pop radio. A lot of bands were crossing over to pop radio, but also MTV. And
Yes.
for a gangly looking guy, they made great
Yeah.
videos, right? I mean, as a gangly looking frontman, no, I mean, just let it be said, right? I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
look like Duran Duran, you know?
Nope. No. But and then guess what happens? He'd say it, but Rick Ocasek, his solo career is not what he hoped it would be. He put out
Right,
solo albums and they were good, but the magic wasn't there. And then by the time the Cars come back together, Ben's already passed away. They
right.
got back together in 2011, or I think it was, Move Like This. And that's a really good album. Have you
That's
listened to
right.
that?
That was not the new Cars. That was
It was the Cars. There was the new
right,
Cars with Todd Rundgren
right
for a
later.
bit.
Yes.
And they actually reached out to Rick to do that project. He said no, but he gave the blessing to the other guys, Elliot Easton and the other guys in the band. But when they reunited for Move Like This, in again, I think it was 2011, it was odd because again, the enigma that Rick Ocasek was, Elliot Easton just gets a call out of nowhere, and Rick's just like, I've got these batch of songs. I just feel like they'd be good for a Cars album. And Elliot Easton's like, okay, like,
You still have my number?
yeah, like, let's go. Let's do it. No pun
I'll have to,
intended. Let's go.
right.
But,
I'll have to,
but, sadly, Ben wasn't there. So you wonder which songs he would have been on, but give it a listen, Steve. It's a really good album. It lives up to its expectations, I think.
I'll have to check it out because I do not know of it. And I'm always a fan of bands later periods, later years.
Yeah.
In fact, you mentioned the Door to Door album. If I remember correctly, the single from that was a song called Strap Me In,
Yes.
which
Yes.
which is one of my all-time favorite car
It's
songs.
a good tune. And I'll tell you
I
what's
love
a
that
great,
song. Elliot Easton has a perfect guitar solo in that song. I mean, note for note,
very underrated,
perfection. Yeah.
very underrated guitarist. But Strap Me In's a good one. But the other one I fell in love with just because I was preparing for the interview and I said, I got to listen to Door to Door because I gave up on it. I just didn't think it was worth anything. But You Are the Girl is good. But there's another one in there that I don't even think was released as a single, Go Away. And that's
Okay.
Ben sings that. Go Away. It's the second to last track on that album. But yeah, the album just did not do well. And it was just time for them to Move Like This, 2011. I guess right. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
One more time. What's the name of that Cars book?
So yeah, it is called. Oh, I lost it here. Here we go. Peter Aaron, Moving in Stereo. Rick Ocasek, The Driving Force of the Cars.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to number 7. Here's another band. I did a lot of episodes on this band this past year. One of my favorite bands, maybe in my top 5, Grateful Dead. Dennis McNally, The Last Great Dream, How Bohemians Became Hippies and Created the 60s. This isn't about the Grateful Dead, but it's about
The era.
Yeah, the roots of the 60s counterculture, tracing how the post-World War II bohemian art scenes from like beat poets in San Francisco to artists in Greenwich Village and London evolved, merged to birth that hippie movement. And McNally is a fantastic writer and was the publicist for the Grateful Dead.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had a great story when his first meeting with Jerry. And Jerry just was that kind of guy. He wasn't into the whole corporate business stuff.
Right.
And he said two rules. And Dennis is like, okay. And Dennis is listening. He's like, all right, let's do it. I said, number 1, we do not, what did he say? He said, we don't kiss the media's ass. We don't kiss their ass. Number 1. Number 2, here's a joint, smoke it. and that's all I got for it.
Those are the
And
rules.
Dennis is like, okay.
Those are the rules. This book sounds like that the overused phrase deep dive is perfect for.
It's
this book sounds like it's covering a lot.
Oh, dude, it gets into the poets and the radio stations, the early FM radio stations out in San Fran, where they'd have like these beat poets come on, controversial people that would come on, and the artists. It just all that. It took a while. It was bubbling up in the early '60s, and it by the time you get to like 66, 67, it starts to hit its peak. But it was starting. It was starting early in that decade.
I'll tell you, you just remind me of an idea that kind of crystallized for me, and not to get too far off topic here as I can easily do, but all those radio stations back then that were so freeform, right? I mean, unless there's air check tapes, those things that has gone
Oh,
to history. And what a cool podcast that could be.
you're
Just
right.
nothing else but those tapes. Here's Sunday night from January 10th, 1963, whatever it might be. It reminds me of, did you see the Sly Stone that documentary that
No,
Quest loved? Man, it's amazing.
it's
I
good.
learned so much about Sly Stone, including the fact he was a DJ in San Francisco.
Was he? I didn't
And
know that.
they had tapes from him on air from when he was doing his show. And I didn't know
Oh
that, but I
man,
just thought what I would give to spend a few hours listening to a couple of his shows week to week or night by night. I mean, just
absolutely.
stuff has gone to history, but man, what a
Well,
treasure trove that could be.
I don't know. I think you know this about me. I mean, I worked in radio, but radio was everything to me, and it still is. The history of radio. If there was a podcast that I would want to do along with what I do now, that would be it. But I would also, if I write a book, which I would love to one day, the history of FM radio. There've been some books out there on it, and they're really good. Tom Donahue was the guy who started the first freeform station really in San Francisco, and it was a total creative project. It had nothing to do with commercial prospects, had nothing to do with anything other than the government said to these companies, you got an AM and FM, you got to put something on your FM waves. You can't just put the same thing on FM. And so
Right.
it was just like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And then when the Grateful Dead and Pink Floyd and all these bands were making long form music, and Donnie, who was disc jockey already, he was noticing that, and he said, well, let's play a whole album side or a full album, but also let's have people with like a political voice with an opinion,
Right.
controversial, but something that's going to ignite people, and
Yeah.
and he was at a station. Donahue was at a station. You talk about wild stories. Howard Hessman, Johnny Fever was at that, right? He was a DJ,
No
and
kidding.
and Carl, the writer for Jaws,
Peter
was
Benchley.
not Peter Benchley, the script writer who's in
Oh,
Jaws. He plays the news reporter in
oh yes.
Jaws,
I can't remember
and
his name, but
he's saying to the mayor, he's like, I'll bury it in the back page. Don't worry about it. That guy.
right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, Carl, not terrible. It's Carl Gottlieb.
Gottlieb. Okay, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a history that needs to be told because
But
when
you're right.
if my math is correct, I think Generation X is going to be the last generation really that was so influenced by what was over terrestrial airwaves.
Yeah, yeah. Radio was an absolute 100% art form for a very, very long time, and then in the 70s and into the 80s, it became very corporate, and then it
Oh
became more
yeah.
and more corporate to the point where I jumped ship because I couldn't afford to live off of the salary because they weren't paying DJs anything, and they also didn't want DJs to become stars because then
Right.
then you'd have to pay them more. So
Right.
just read liner notes. That's what
Yeah.
was driving me nuts.
If they even had DJs, I don't know if you heard what happened here in Minneapolis actually last week.
No.
I guess they were, I don't even know if I think they're still a AAA format. Cities 97 KCTZ. They played 4 hours of the last like 30 seconds of this one song. It was in a continuous loop and it went viral. You'd have to just look up Cities
By
97.
mistake?
It's the
Or
computer glitch. It was an evening. There's no
yeah.
voice tracking. There's no DJ. It's a clear channel station. It's down in Texas. And this has been a long time influential station here in Minneapolis, which I so, so, I spent so little time listening to terrestrial radio, especially when I got out of the record
Same here.
business,
Yeah.
music business. I don't know how influential they are anymore, but I saw this come across my feed and I was like, this can't get any more embarrassing, but this is so indicative of what's going
Yeah.
on in radio. It's all computer programmed. It's
Yeah.
not local.
And there's
And this thing
nobody in
went
the
off of,
building.
right.
There's
Nobody knew
nobody
what to
in the
do.
building. There was a station I worked at where they had this one guy He worked there overnights, and there was four stations in the building, and his job was just to make sure that if something like that happened, he take care of it, put him back on track. But then even those guys weren't even around anymore. And all the shows, most of the shows you hear are pre-recorded. They used to have, they call it voice tracking, and I could do a 4-hour shift in like 15 minutes. They'd have all the songs set up, and they have the liner notes, and then you could take the song and move it. So if you want to hit the post in like top 40 format and you're talking right up until the singing, you could do that.
That's an art form, man.
which is taking away from the art form, because that was the whole thing. You'd have to practice ahead of time. I did a few stations that were the top 40 type format where you'd have to practice it out ahead of time, time it. How long is the intro? The intro is 13 seconds before they start singing. Okay, well, and then you're drafting up something in your head or typing it up and rehearsing it before you do it, because it's an art form until the point where you just get it. You just know. Those, but you didn't have to do that anymore with voice tracking.
Yeah.
Wow. I got, if you have an article, I'll look it up, but
I was just glancing here. I know I texted to a couple of people. I'll find it. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. So we're up to number 6.
6. Yes.
Oh, this one is so cool. This book is so cool. Jason Schneider, That Gun in Your Hand, The Strange Saga of Hey Joe and Popular Music's History of Violence. Schneider uses Hendrix's iconic version of that song, the murder ballad, Hey Joe. Mm-hmm. It's really a lens to explore the deep, the violent connection between American popular music and crimes of passion, tracing the song's roots, exploring its various artists, and there have been many, and our fascination with violence through this story. It's like true crime. There's something about this idea of, hey Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand, man? What are you about to do? You are about to throw your whole life away. What are you about, and how did that song start? And it goes back way, 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 way back, before Hendrix heard a version of it that was like 2 or 3 recordings in, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it's all in that book.
Song,
it was here. Let's look it up quickly. It was an old folk song. Hey Joe. There was a version by the Leaves that was somewhat popular, and it just around the New York folk scene, it was like a song that was just every artist would cover it and play it in the clubs. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the Leaves recorded the earliest known commercial version of it. But there was guy by the name of Billy Roberts. In 1962, Billy Roberts registered Hey Joe for copyright. There's a long authorship.
So was this based on was it folklore or was it a true story? I mean, I wonder what
from what I recall,
this story, this song was.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I read the book, but I think it's just a fictional story. And I think Tim Rose recorded the song in 1966, copyrighted it as his own arrangement, and that might have been the version that Hendrix heard. I think that was the version that he heard at a party somewhere, and he just decided to record it. But murder ballads in general, they're a fascinating topic to really get into, and the history of it. The Byrds did it. Hendrix, he was at the time with the Jimmy James and the Blue Flames group.
Okay.
And
yeah,
it was one of the songs that Hendrix would perform a lot because the song, the Tim Rose version, I think was getting popular. And Chaz Chandler from The Animals managed Hendrix and says,
right,
this is a song you should play in your set. And he played it. And then they recorded it. Yeah, they recorded it like a day after he first played it. I think
this book sounds like it's a reminder as well that violence in rock and pop did not begin with rap or for that
Right?
matter, heavy metal, let's say, right? I mean, there's a long history of this.
Long history, going back way back. All right, now the next one, I know you're going to love this because you're a fellow Kiss fan. Greg Prato, Talk to Me, Conversations with Ace Frehley.
Oh yeah,
It's a must. Yeah,
it's on my list.
yeah,
Yep.
it's a must. It's all told in Ace's words, but also Greg interviewed Eddie Trunk and Joe Bonamassa and people that were friends and peers of Ace. But it's a deep dive into his life, his career, his sobriety, the wild stories. It's all in there. Greg interviewed him many, many times over the last 20 years, I would say. Did you hear the Gene? I love Gene. He's my favorite. I love Gene as far as his stage persona with Kiss, but he opens his mouth sometimes.
It's
Do you know what I'm talking about here?
what is this very recent? Because
Yes, yes.
it's easy to lose track of all the dumb things Gene says.
No, it was just within the last few days. He's saying that, basically alluding to the fact that Ace didn't just fall down the stairs sober.
Oh, come on, man.
And that's not cool because Ace's roadie, his road manager, was on Three Sides of the Coin recently and was adamant that Ace was sober, 100% sober, and he has been for over 15 years.
Over 15 years, yeah.
And that Ace had terrible knees, his ankles, his feet also were causing problems to the point where whenever they would go to these venues, if there were stairs, Ace had to have somebody in front of him and behind him, and Ace would put his hands on their shoulder and make sure that he didn't fall.
Right.
And he had problems with balance, but this guy was just adamant. He's like, I'm telling you that Ace was not drinking again. Period. End of story. So Gene is just saying this because that's Gene. He'll say things that are. He said some cool things about Eddie Van Halen when he passed, and he said some cool things about Ozzy. So he could say some really cool things, and then sometimes he opens his mouth and he'll admittedly say, "I opened my mouth again. I'm sorry."
I mean, at this point, he's pushing 80. He still hasn't learned, and I never understood. And Paul as well. I mean, at some point, there's no reason to talk trash. There's no reason to just get those little digs in.
Yeah, and Gene was just like, I wish I could have done more. And it's like, it's not about you.
No, I know.
You haven't seen Ace in a long. I mean, you saw him a few times here and there over the years. I'm sure they talked on it, but come on. Ace is these guys are elderly. Okay,
right?
It's an elderly guy with bad knees. He fell and he hit his head. I mean, there was a guy that lived on the street from my mom. I remember he was a guidance counselor at my high school, and he fell down the stairs and died. He wasn't drinking. He just, he was old.
I just had this conversation with my wife actually, because I'm 58 and I am in excellent health, but I slipped just not paying attention and fell down my stairs. And I was all alone. And I just remember I had a salad bowl went clattering, and I just
really
laughingly thought, well, this is how it's going to end. But in all seriousness, I mean, there's some crazy percentage of there's that age cohort mixed with accidents in the home or accidents.
Yes.
I mean, these are all elderly guys, just switching gears as far as Ace reading material. Like you, I know you listened to a ton of Kiss after Ace's passing, and you had that great tribute episode on Booked on Rock. Thank you for having me on that.
Yes,
and
you did a great job, man. Everybody came through on that.
That was a lot of fun to listen to, and I listened to so much Ace, but I also reread his autobiography. I hadn't read in a few years.
Yes,
and you know what I took away from that is that, if you look at when that book was published, what was it, 2011, maybe somewhere around there? I can't remember. Yeah. It's not that.
Yeah, no regrets.
Yeah. And I mean, even, he still had good things. He was kind of above board. He still had decent things to say about, you know what? I'll always love those guys. Yep. I don't need to go back and do it. I mean, even that he wasn't part of the reunion, it was like, all right, hey, they didn't call, you know what I mean? He was just,
He let things go. He let things go. He'd get pissed. He'd say what he had to say, and then he just moved on.
And I think getting sober and the path he took to get there probably helped him in that respect. I mean, this is all out of my control. It's those morons. I'm just, those guys,
Yeah.
I still love, and that's it.
And he
But I
was
got to
the
read
most
Greg's book.
prolific. Yeah, it's really good. He was the most prolific member of Kiss the last 20 years.
Oh, he absolutely was. And I think I mentioned this on your tribute episode. When you look at it, there was never a trend that Kiss didn't jump on, which they didn't need to do,
Right.
right? We'll go disco, we're gonna go, more glam in the hair metal in the 80s. I mean, I always say Carnival of Souls if is that if Kiss fans heard that record without knowing it was Kiss, they wouldn't like it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I just can't get into that.
Yeah,
Maybe Rain. Is it Rain? Maybe
Rain and
one or
Hate, maybe
two songs I
Jungle.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But what I'm getting at is that Ace was the only one who always stayed true to the music. If
yes.
you look at from the first album to the very last, I love his recent stuff. I thought that last record was 10,000 volts.
Yep.
I just thought it was great. I listened to that record so much. He always stayed true to the music. He didn't chase trends. He I mean, there's not much more you can say about that.
Yep.
And Kiss, you can't say that about.
Back into Your Arms Again. I think that is that on 10,000 volts.
I believe it is. I don't have it in front of me,
Let's
but
see. I'm going to look it up.
surprisingly, because it'd been it was sitting on top of my CD
Yeah.
player, which is
Let's
nearly
see.
in arm's reach here for months and months.
Yeah, let's see. I think that's it. Let's see. 10,000 volts track listing. Let's see. Back into yeah. Track 5, Back Into My Arms Again. It's my favorite from that album.
Yeah, it's
And the one that you were part of that you worked with Ace
Anomaly.
on, Anomaly,
Sure.
is his most personal album.
Yeah,
And that is one of my favorites from Ace.
I'm so thankful he was so prolific, which would not have happened if he wasn't sober.
Yeah. And he was just a cool guy, especially when he got sober. He just the last interview I just saw he did with the Professor of Rock, and he's just such a nice guy at the end of the interview. He's like, I want to thank all the Kiss fans and all the Ace fans. Just want to thank all of you,
Yeah.
and you just want to hug him.
He was humble,
He's just lovable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was rock and roll to the core. That was what bothered him towards the end as he get to 1980. It's like he just wanted to rock and roll. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to do.
Didn't want to do a concept record. Didn't want to go disco. I mean,
and that really hurt him to see Tommy Thayer wearing his outfit. That really, and I can imagine, because it's like you got this guy out there wearing his costume and makeup and also doing his moves and all that. I mean, that was rough. That was rough, but it's a business. I think also Ace understood it was a business, and I mean, he kind of let bygones be bygones with that stuff. Paul, and at his funeral, his services, it was Paul, Gene, and Peter were all there.
So glad they were there. I mean,
yeah,
obviously you'd hope they would, but with those guys, I mean, I'm glad they were there. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Hold on. It's a good segue for a shameless plug here. Tomorrow morning in your inbox, you'll see a press release from Martin Popoff's next book, which has already been up for pre-order. It's called Kiss 76.
Oh, I can't wait.
12 months that define the hottest band in the land. And I've got a physical advance copy. I sent one out to Martin. By the time it's available to pre-order now. It's not a plug here, but I'm sure you'll want to talk to Martin again next year.
Oh, please. Yeah. Because this focuses on the year 1976, right?
That's it. Yeah.
And what transpired that year. That was a big year.
Right. Blowing up. You had Destroyer come out. And then at the end of the year, you had Rock and Roll Over.
Right.
Which was one of my favorite Kiss records. And just, they toured practically the entire year. And just,
does it cover the Halloween special they're on, the TV special?
I believe was that 76? Was it 75? I can't recall, but I have not read the entire book yet. I've been flipping through it. It's one of those, I got to sit down and read it cover to cover every time I open up at a different place. Amazing photography, but
the cover looks awesome.
That's a cool niche where it's like, this is it, just this one year. And
when is that coming out?
It's coming out February of next year, 2026.
Oh, okay. So we got to set up something with Martin. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, this next one from Minneapolis, Steve, you're going to appreciate this one. This is actually a tie. Two Prince books I have
Okay.
at the number 4 slot. James Campion, Revolution, Prince, the Band, the Era. That's one. And John McKie, Prince, Sign of the Times. Those two, I think, if you get them both, you can't go wrong. One, James, his book explores the creative and the cultural impact of Prince's backing band, the Revolution, which is really interesting. And it details how it was a diverse, a multiracial, intergender group, and that helped Prince create the iconic music that he created, defied the norms, achieved pop superstardom, really through those prolific years, which is 82 to 86. McKee's book examines Prince's life and career through the prism of just specifically that album from 1987. This is a masterpiece album, Sign of the Times. So if you get those two, those are two great books that came out this year, right around close to around the same time. And you have to, there can't be enough books on Prince.
No,
covering his life, because there's a mystery there too. There's still a lot to uncover.
Such a mystery, and prolific is an understatement. I mean, just the guy was so, I mean, he played every instrument it's funny because being just a guitar lover that I am, I never thought he really got his due. He should have been on multiple covers of Guitar World, but I don't even think that ever happened because the guy could shred. He could play the blues. He could play jazz. I mean, just a monster guitar player.
And I admit, I mean, his music was never played on rock stations where I was here in Connecticut. Right. So I had him placed in the pop genre. That's it. He has nothing to do with rock and roll.
Right.
And then as I got older, and then at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance, that started to change things.
Yeah, that in the Super Bowl halftime show.
Where
he did a Foo Fighters cover, and it was just that guitar playing and just I mean, if for anybody who didn't know or forgot what an amazing stage performer he was, because for the longest time there wasn't massive world or US tours.
Incredible.
And I mean, I've lived here 30 years, and I saw him once in 2007 when he played three gigs on July 7th, 2007.
Wow.
This numerology thing or something. So yeah, I mean, just obviously from, just making that massive imprint and out of here in Minneapolis. And just you mentioned the first book.
Right, James.
Yeah, that band.
The Revolution.
The Revolution, right. Sorry, I had a brain cramp there for a second, but it reminded me that I'm going to reference the Sly Stone documentary again, because a couple people in the documentary brought it up, that Prince was so heavily influenced by Sly. And if you look at the Revolution, you saw men, women, white, black, different religions. It's like, whoa, that was Sly's blueprint.
Sure.
And
absolutely,
it's so obvious, but yet I never really thought of it. And just that through line, I mean, just amazing musicianship, great stage show, incredible songs.
There are a lot of revelations in the book, like Joni Mitchell is a huge inspiration. And how he was a fan of Michael Jackson's, but he was smart enough to know that he needed to make sure that he played the guitar so he could differentiate himself from Michael, because otherwise he would have been lumped in with Michael way too much.
And the press did that. The press did that so often because here's two young black superstars in the MTV generation.
Yes.
And competing for very often the same fan base and dollars, but and the same airspace on pop radio so often, but yet two wildly different artists. I mean, in my mind, there was never a comparison.
They had an interesting friendship, like a competitive friendship, where Prince would send, like, if Prince got a good review of an album, he would fax it over to Michael's place and just basically say, "Hey, look what I did." Yeah.
I did not know that. That's
awesome. And Michael wanted, and this was, I found out in the book, Michael wanted Prince on the song Bad, and Prince read the opening lines and he thought it was so sophomoric. He's just like, no. That was basically, he just one word, no. The opening line is, your butt is mine, is no.
I'm not surprised that Michael, always with a commercial eye and that sort of strategy thing. Okay, who's a hot guitar gun? I'll have Slash. Do you know what I mean? After Eddie, I mean, it's no surprise that he reached out to Prince. like to try to get him on the
Sure.
record. Likewise, it's not surprising if I think about it for a second that Prince said no.
Right. I mean, there's so many other great stories, just how he was in the studio. He's very intense, where if you made a mistake, he'd give you the look, oh, shit.
Yeah.
He was very particular. But there was, he had like management would tell him, you talk about being prolific. They would say, hey, slow down, man. You're going to overexpose yourself. And he's just like, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I'm just going to keep writing. I'm going to keep recording. And that's why the vault is filled with music and videos and all these ideas that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He couldn't turn that creative thing off.
Yep. Well, he's in the next book. And here we go. We got a Motorbooks book showing up here. Gary Graff, 501 Essential Albums of the 80s, the music fan's definitive guide. And Prince is in this one. And Gary Graff is one of the nicest guys, man. I love having him on. Great writer. And he takes his fellow music journalists and has them do entries on these albums, curates and explores 501 pivotal albums from the 80s. It's all genres, not just rocks, pop, rock, hip hop, metal, indie, year by year breakdown, descriptions, album art, artist photos, the release details, which, Motorbooks does an amazing job with, commentary to capture the cultural impact and the innovation of the albums. And it's got everything. It's got blockbuster albums, but also the influential, like niche records. And it's great because it's a conversation piece. I mean, you could put that in your living room or dining room and have guests over and they look at it and they start to talk about it. And it really, and he's working on a 70s one.
Yep. So, the 70s one. Yeah. He's called it a book designed to start arguments, but yet that it's so darn complete.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot to, at least from where I sit, there's not a lot to argue there. I mean, you could quibble a little bit, but all 501, you can legitimately make the argument that, and he does, that this is why they should be there. And the other journalists do a great job with that too.
Yep. So that's a must. Now the next one, number 2, is one that, oh man, thank God a book has finally been written about this guy. Stephen Lewis wrote a book, Richard Manuel, His Life and Music. Richard Manuel from the band.
The band, sure.
Yes. First official biography of the band's soulful multi-instrumentalist and vocalist, Richard Manuel. Explores his musical genius, his role in rock history, his struggles with addiction, deep dives into his songs, performances. And he was a complex guy. He was very hard on himself, very loyal to his friends. And it gets right up until his last night where they're playing a gig. That's what's heartbreaking. I mean, they're playing these small little dive bars. It was the band without Robbie Robertson, and they were broke. Right. They're all broke. Robertson was getting all the publishing. So, great voice, and a great songwriter. I mean, the contributions he made to the songs of the band. Hard to believe there hasn't been a book on him, but Stephen Lewis does a great job. It's actually that episode has done very well. The episode I put up on YouTube, the audio version as well, but the YouTube. Still to this day, people comment and they watch it. So it's really cool to see how many fans Richard Manuel has.
It sounds like a super interesting book. And I mean, there's a lot, the band's history is so deep. And a lot of people just think of, is it Garth Hudson and Robbie Robertson, right? But it's
Levon.
I'm sorry, Levon Helm. Yeah. But Richard, huge part of that band.
Yeah, Rick Danko, there's got to be a book on him soon because that guy too, man, what a beautiful voice and a sad ending to his life. They're all gone.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. That's what I thought.
Yeah, the professor, he just passed away. He was the last Garth. Yeah, he just passed away. An amazing band. All right, you ready for number 1?
Ready for number 1. I won't do a drum roll, but yeah, let's hear it.
Here's a guy who's really his voice. As a fan of this band, I always wondered what he was thinking throughout the years and what he had to say. And finally, he's written a book, Mike Campbell. It's called Heartbreaker. Mike Campbell, the lead guitarist, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, from the band's inception from 1976 right up until 2017 when Petty passed unexpectedly. It's his life story, his journey from being a poor kid in Florida to, meeting Tom Petty and becoming a legendary guitarist, co-writer for Petty's songs, but also he wrote Don Henley's Boys of Summer.
Which 99% of the people don't know that.
Right. And it talks about how Petty, they're in the car together and the song comes up on the radio, and it was like the 100th time Petty had to hear the song. And he finally just turned to Mike Campbell. He's like, I got to give you, man, this is a good song. Cause he offered it to Petty. Petty said, no, it won't fit on my album, Southern Accents. So he knew somebody who knew somebody that said Don Henley's looking for somebody to help write some music for him. So he played the song for Henley one day, and Henley's like, it was actually a funny story regarding that too, because Henley is kind of a strange guy. And he said Henley's sitting there in Campbell's kitchen listening to the song on a boombox, and he's expressionless. And then he's just like, all right, thank you. And, it was nice to meet you. And he just left. And Mike Campbell's like, oh shit, he didn't like it, and then he gets a phone call the next morning, and he's like, that is one of the best songs I've ever listened to. Now Mike Campbell's like, oh, okay. So you like it. But then again, Petty turned it down. And if you listen to a song called Runaway Trains on Petty's album, Let Me Up, I've Had Enough, which has the hit single on there, You Got Me in a Corner, You Got No Place. You're jamming me. Okay, jamming.
Yes. Yep.
But there's a song called Runaway Trains, and that was Mike Campbell's offering of writing a song similar to Boys of Summer for Petty, because Petty was like, yeah, I should have taken that one. So if you listen to the song Runaway Trains, it sounds like it's got a very similar opening to Boys of Summer.
So,
but this book was right. I mean, the moments right up until the very last moment Mike Campbell spent with Tom Petty, bedside, they, you better come in. This is it.
Oh man.
And you're like, whoa. And he's just like, he's thanking Petty for all the.
Yeah. And they were legitimately close. They were close friends, right? I mean,
Yep.
It wasn't just a hired gun situation.
He wasn't a hired gun. And to Campbell's credit, Campbell, the big lesson, the big thing he focuses on throughout this book is appreciating what you have. Because in the early days, he was getting a little pissed, why is Petty getting more money than me? Because he was writing some songs with Petty. And there's a story, he pulls Petty aside during one of the recording sessions. And this just shows you how business smart and tough Petty was. He's like, hey, Tom, I wrote a couple songs with you, can you give me a little bit more, than what you're giving me? And it was like a silence, and Petty's just looking at him, and Petty's just like, but I'm Tom Petty. And Mike Campbell said it was like an awkward moment. He's like, right, but it's just, I've been helping write these songs. And again, he's like, but I'm Tom Petty. And right. Campbell finally got it. He's like, he's trying to nicely say, I'm the star. And
right.
Because you're here because of me. I'm not, he's not trying to be an asshole about it, but
right. As good as the song is, it gets to where it is because he's Tom Petty.
He's Tom Petty.
Right. I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? And Campbell learned that early on. He accepted that early on. Having said that, Petty treated him very well, financially, all that. They were just buds, even when they did Full Moon Fever and there was nobody in the Heartbreakers, I think Ben Montench might have done some work on it, but really it was a out and out solo album. Yet Mike Campbell's all over that album, recorded in Mike Campbell's garage. And it's one of those things. It's like, when Petty dies, that suddenly they were all left with, it's just like, now what do I do?
Sure.
And then he joined Fleetwood Mac, and he's got a band called the Dirty Knobs, which is really cool. He's having fun. He's got a good life and all that, but you just feel like there's just, there's always going to be that huge part of his his life, his heart and soul is
Right.
missing. That was his
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can't replace that, obviously.
yeah,
Not musically, spiritually. I mean, the decades they spent together, the hours working together. I mean,
yeah. And it's great stories about just writing the songs. Right up through like the Wildflowers days, like Mick Jagger coming over, like Bob Rock, uh, not Bob Rock, um, uh, who produced Wildflowers.
not Jeff Lynne.
No, no, it was produced by uh,
Trying to
Rick
recall.
Rubin. Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
And
Okay.
and I think Rubin at the time was producing Mick's solo album. So he brings he and he Mike Campbell was I think his mom was living with him. And so there's a knock on the door, and Campbell's mom opens the door, and there's Rick Rubin, and he's like, hi, Miss Campbell. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Mick. Oh, hello. How are you?
Love stories like that.
Yeah. And Mike Campbell's like, Mick Jagger's at my door talking to my mom.
What
it was,
world is this?
And I think it was You Wreck Me was a song like if, Mick was digging. And then he figured it out. He's like, Rick's coming over here to see if they can get one of my songs for Mick. Because then Mick, he was describing Mick doing that whole his little chicken dance, I guess, as You Wreck Me's being played. He's like, oh, I really love this song, And Mike Campbell's like, nah, man, we're holding on to this. This is
Mick's over there angling for it. It's like, okay.
Yeah, those are the stories that are in the book. It's really wild. Yeah. Some of the battles in the studio with Stan Lynch and on the early albums, forgetting producers' names all of a sudden. He didn't like Stan Lynch's drumming, Jimmy Iovine on Damn the Torpedoes, that they're legendary. That's a big breakthrough album.
Sure.
And he was riding Stan Lynch hard. I don't like it. Do it again. I don't. And they almost, and then Petty and Ivy were having these conversations with Stan Lynch, like sitting right there, but he could tell they're just like, you got to get rid of this guy. You got to get rid of him, And
I'm right here.
Yeah. It's like, hello. Yeah. But Stan Lynch was, he was vocal, so that didn't, that just made the combustion even more volatile. So that's my number one. Do you have any books this year that like any others that come to mind? I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, in fairness, these are books that I read this year to prepare for my show. So I'm not saying that there aren't. I mean, obviously, did Bono's book come out?
I don't think
this
it
year.
Did. No. I'll tell you, I am unburdened by memory as far as I mean, God, just because I'm surrounded by books all the time, right? I mean, I can barely keep track of my own stuff, but I mean, you got a really comprehensive list there. And I was just looking at, I've got a couple episodes of Booked on Rock in the queue that I got to catch up on. One of them is Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper's band.
Oh, which Dennis was great.
And I obviously, before we went into this, I had no idea the 10 you were gonna come up with, but I mean, that Dunaway book, and just from what I read about it and just knowing what I know, it just sounds like it's fascinating. I'm really looking forward to listening to that episode.
He's got great stories on writing I'm 18 and
right.
School's Out and all that stuff. And that's great. And then he hooked me up with some other people. Now he hooked me up with their roadie from the early days who wrote a book. So I'm going to be talking with him. Mike Allen is his name. Mike Amp Boy Allen. He was there from like the very, very, very early days. They're talking about it's like Alice Cooper. He was like he was being Alice even in the early days. They'd bring out a toilet, put it on the stage, and throw toilet paper out in the crowd, just trying to shock people. But another one hooked me up with, and I just put it up tonight, is Digby Smith, an engineer who was with Island Records for many years, and he was worked with Bob Marley and Paul McCartney and Free and Zeppelin, and I mean, that just went up today.
Cool.
That just went up today. So
it's so awesome that these stories are getting out there, and these folks are telling these stories. I mean, for me, I've always wanted to see behind the curtain, for lack of a better phrase.
Are
I
you
like
with
to
me?
know
Like
how
I
things.
love engineers and producers. I love
Right.
when they start telling stories, you know?
There's I love I mean it started for me with like the Beach Boys and the Beatles, hearing how they put this music together. And
Right.
I'm,
It's
barely an
really
amateur
cool.
musician, but the idea of just how these guys build a song where it could just be like one little melody,
Yes.
right? And then you're just putting this together. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to love putting models together. Then I used to take them all apart, and then I would make these kind of mashups of other, cars or models or whatever. It's like, not that I'm making that comparison, but that's how my mind works. It's like, okay, I have these things. I want to make something out of it,
Yes.
right? And sometimes, I mean, it's just the creative process, music more than any other art form, just absolutely has always fascinated me how this comes about, how this happens. And it's amazing to me when writers, some guys like a Billy Joel, just stop writing. Or let's say we were talking about Kiss. I'm like, there'll never be another Kiss record. Ace was so prolific, but it's like, okay, you know, how do you just turn that off?
Yeah. How do you turn that faucet off?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Dennis Dunaway, you're going to really love this part of the interview because he says every day songs come to me, and his wife will tease him
Exactly.
like they're in the shopping, they're going, food shopping, and she's like, "You're writing a song in your head, aren't you?" And he's like, "How do you know?" And she's like, "You're bopping your head." And he's like, "I have hundreds of songs, and they're not complete. They're pieces of songs, and then I store them away and I send them to Alice, and then see what he wants to do with it." And then somebody will come in and say, "Let's put this in this front. Let's create this hook. Let's put these two parts."
Right.
It's really cool. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I wish I mean, it's like these people are like magicians, like, how are you writing a song? How are
Yeah.
you hearing that? But he goes, "I'm always writing songs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The collaborative process fascinates me too, especially where you've got veteran bands now that are going back and look, for different reasons, but they're going back and they might be finding these demos or whatever and go, yeah, you know what,
Right.
man, that bridge from that song works perfect now. And
Right.
it's just,
Well,
I love that stuff.
on the new Alice album, there's some songs from back in the day. Glenn Buxton, the Alice guitarist who passed in '97, there was some stuff that Dennis had, and they pulled it out for this.
Wow.
And the new album's really good. Have you heard his?
Alice is another one. Yeah. Alice is another one who I get every Alice album there he comes out with because he's so prolific and
And he sounds great
he does
still.
sound great. And every couple, and the records are all, he flirted with that kind of Marilyn Manson sound for a minute. Right. I mean,
Right.
late,
Yeah, early
but
2000s with
somewhere around there for
Give me
Brutal
this,
Planet, I
give me
think it
that.
was.
Yeah, Brutal
Yeah.
Planet. Give me
And
this,
he-
give me
and
that.
even those albums had some good
They're
songs on,
good.
but I mean, just all through, especially when he's been back working with Bob Ezrin. I mean,
Yeah.
I love, I don't, I mean, I love virtually even the 80s records that he doesn't even remember doing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's some great stuff on all those, but I think creatively the last 20 years he's been on a fantastic roll.
Yeah.
And it's
The
great that he's
Revenge of
back with
Alice Cooper is a new one.
yeah, and it's great that he's back with the Alice Cooper guy, the original band members.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
All the original guys. Yeah. You'll really enjoy that one. Yeah. Dennis Dunaway's a cool dude. He lives in Connecticut right near me here.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So I had done a phone interview with him and Neil Smith they were coming to play a gig at a club nearby, and we did a phoner with him, as they call it, a phoner,
A
your
phone,
radio
right.
lingo.
Right.
And Dennis was laughing. He's like, "Oh man," he goes, he didn't remember. He's done so many interviews.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I think you'll really enjoy that one. But the one like Digby Smith's talking about how for Zeppelin 3, Since I've Been Loving You, Robert Plant, one take nailed that vocal that you hear. One take. Everybody's jaws dropped. They're just like, holy shit. And Robert's like, "Would you like me to do another turn?" Like, "No, it's all set.
We got
You're
it.
good. You're good, Robert. Thank you." It was so cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. He's just all the stories of Andy Johns, Andy Johns is crazy. Andy Johns produced For
I
Unlawful
heard.
Carnal Knowledge. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I always heard that.
there's a story. Let's see who told this story. This is one where he was producing Cinderella, and he was drinking and doing who knows else what, because he was just out of his mind, and he just decided. Tom Kiefer called up. This was this is the one I just did with Derek Schulman, who signed
Oh,
Bon
Giant Steps.
Jovi. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, right. Gets a call from Tom Kiefer of Cinderella. He's like, Derek, you got to come down here, man. He's like, Andy's bleeding to death. He's like, he's bleeding to death. He goes, yeah, he cut his wrists and took his wrist and wrote some word on one of the speaker cabinets, like, love this or something like that. And he's like screaming. He's like, I love this. This is fucking awesome.
I'll tell you,
And Derek was just like, this guy's fucking out of his mind.
the sounds he got,
Oh,
Born Lawful Carnal Knowledge might be the best sounding to my ears of those first 3 or 4 records with Hager.
And him and Sammy kind of butt heads during
yeah,
he's the one who was part of When the Levee Breaks, that drum sound. I mean, he's the one that helped to facilitate that whole thing and put Bonham in the stairwell and the whole thing.
I'll tell you, that would be a great. I would love to see more producers do books. Like Tom Werman's book a couple years ago was fascinating to me. And I mean, he was also a label A&R guy, but I would love to read a book from Mutt Lange.
You set me up with Miles Copeland, that was my first ones. Not a producer engineer, but still manager of the police. You know what? I asked Digby Smith about remixing and remastering. What's the difference, and have him explain, right? He remixed Bad Company's first album, Straight Shooter, their live album recently. And he also did Sabbath's Volume 4. And I said, I'm going to be a selfish Van Halen fan here, Digby. And he was a really nice guy. I go, every Van Halen fan wants this album from 1988 called OU812 remixed. Why doesn't an artist do that? And he really couldn't say one way or the other. Basically, it's just Alex's decision, really. But he was funny. Mm-hmm. But he did say, though, he's like, sometimes you have to get the song stems and really work from those. But sometimes you have to be careful not if you raise up something, it might affect the other tracks when they're playing together. You have to kind of be careful with that. But anyway, having said that, he goes, hey, I'm here. I said, Alex, are you listening? Digby wants to do it, because it's like, please remix. Oh yeah, too. They remastered it, which helps, but remixing means taking every separate element and blasting up the bass more. And it's just
right.
Yeah.
You reminded me of another producer who I bet you may have heard this, but Jack Douglas was on Billy Corgan's podcast.
Yeah, Aerosmith.
Great converse. Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, John Lennon.
Yes.
And he was
Alice. I think he produced Alice Cooper. I think Dennis mentioned his name.
Producer engineered.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a list of names a mile long that he's worked with and been involved with that. I mean, from jazz to rock that a lot of people don't even know.
Right.
But he was telling, I can't remember I think it was Aerosmith. Yeah, he was talking about Aerosmith. He said the reason why those Aerosmith records he produced, came out, there was a hard edge first song was the way records were. You couldn't put that towards the end of a record because there was sonically, I guess, no space.
Right.
So that's where, Toys in the Attic and Back in the Saddle, those first, and they're some of the best lead track songs in history. But there was also, from an engineering standpoint, we couldn't lead off side 2 with this because there's only
something
so much
with the grooves of the vinyl.
Yes.
And that's why those old albums are like 9 songs, 10 songs,
that's exactly
songs.
what Douglas said. Yeah.
They couldn't fit more, but what that meant was you're picking the best of the best.
Right.
And once the CDs came along, you saw understandably
15-song albums. It was too much.
Like, oh great, let's just jam it like Hot in the Shade from Kiss. It was like, you don't need all these songs, So there was a detriment there because you really had to be careful with the songs you choose. And again, the way they're lined up and how the grooves of the vinyl and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That really is. Yeah. That's, I mean, and those books don't have to be controversial, man. You just give us tell us what's in the sauce, as they say. There's a book called Behind the Boards, which I love, which I still have. And the author interviewed all these people. And it's a story I've told a million times, but it's one of my favorites. Mike Fraser, when he did Thunderstruck for AC/DC.
Oh, sure.
And Angus he lights up the cigarette. They hit record. and Angus goes into right, and Fraser's thinking at some point he'll probably stop and we'll splice this together. We'll do one take, and by the end, the cigarette butt had just burned all the way down, and it was like Angus was just totally zeroed in on it, focused, laser sharp, and that was it. One take, all he had to do with Fraser was just like pull the rider down throughout the verses, and then pull it back up. But that's Angus in one take.
Nailed it.
I love that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's those stories that just fascinate me, but I love hearing, I want to know how these things came together. And yeah, some of the salacious stuff, like somebody, cutting themselves and writing in blood on a speaker, passing out on the Neve board or whatever. I mean, those, doing blow off the couch in Sunset Studios or whatever. But, for the most part, I mean, great records were all made because of, a lot of hard work, if not for the most part, for all the parts. I mean, these records came out because of amazing music, but a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work.
And because of that, amazing musicianship and folks who could do this stuff technically.
Yeah, I think
people were great ears.
Great ears. And because of the mad respect that we guys like us have for these artists, I take some chances. Like I'm going to be doing an episode on ABBA, their third album. Okay. And it's like, and the author, he said, he's been on the show before. He says, look, I understand if you don't want to do this, if it's not rock and roll enough, but I'm doing a book on their third album, I'm like, well, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know. Am I going to get my balls busted by some of the listeners for this? And, and I'm listening to the album and I'm like, nah, man, fuck it. These are real musicians. There's guitar, bass, drums. These are songs, and then you listen to some of the tracks and they're rockers. When you get further into the career, they're really disco-ish. But again, it's that respect for these artists. Rock and roll. It's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sometimes, I get pissed off at some of their choices, but what is rock and roll? How do you define it?
Right.
So, but I'll be interested in doing that one. We'll see. That'll be my first. Like I did one on Chic. I was like, I don't know, Chic, is that rock and roll? But Tony Thompson is fucking badass rock and roll drummer. So, amazing. I try to open my mind to those things and not be so narrow-minded and just be open to it.
Sure.
And next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, man, this is pretty cool. This is cool shit, So
good stuff.
Lots to look forward to in 2026, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Alex's new book coming out, another one that's a picture, mostly photos of Van Halen.
Is that $600 one that I think we were trading emails on? That company in the UK, they do amazing stuff, but I mean, that's
again, ignoring Sammy.
Yeah. We've all discussed that stuff ad nauseum. I mean, it's just, there's some deeper stuff going on there. I think we might not ever know, or until nobody's around to talk about it.
Yep.
So
we'll see. Maybe one day when Alex is gone, Wolfgang might be a little more lenient with some of those things,
I got to say though, I love the fact that he's so charting his own path. Mm-hmm. And if he never plays, if he never plays another Van Halen song live or anywhere, great. Yeah. The guy is an amazing. I would love what he's doing if his name was Rabinowitz. You know what I mean? I do not care. I mean, those records are solid, man. It's like, where is this guy going to be? I mean, he's 30 something now. Where is this guy going to be 3-4 albums from now? He can do whatever he wants musically. I mean, he's such an exceptional talent. I mean, he plays every damn instrument. He's a great songwriter, a great singer, and he is just, I love the fact that, and I'm sure there's parameters when, the publicist is like, all right, don't ask about this stuff, but he's always been very open about this stuff and very self-effacing. And yet, he could bury any one of these people, isn't
that interesting? Yeah. He's very soft-spoken, but don't fuck with him.
Right. But he's always taken the high road too. And of course, the gossip sells and everything. And Lord knows we've all done plenty of podcast episodes, and just there's always some controversy in the Van Halen camp. But he's always been he's been above the fray that I wish Dave and Sammy would be, and Alex to a degree. I mean,
and if you're gonna fire back, do it in your music, which is what Wolfgang did.
Right.
I can't remember the name of the song now, but he inserts that fucking kid into the lyrics.
Yeah. And the video is just the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
He's doing Dave's thing with the nunchucks. Yeah.
I mean, I lost it. It was just great.
Probably the most underrated Mammoth song for me is Waiting from Mammoth 2.
Yeah.
That's a
Good
great
song.
tune. And he's now just Mammoth. There was a legal thing where he couldn't do just Mammoth for a while. He told Rolling Stone that
Yeah,
that's why
I
it
saw
used to
that
be
recently.
Mammoth WVH, and now it's just Mammoth. So he's got
Yeah.
ownership of that name, and the new album is great. He's coming around here. I just saw he's coming to Connecticut. I'd like to see him again. I did see him once,
Yeah, I
and he
saw him live
and
on.
good for him. He
Sorry.
lost like 60 pounds. I think he
Looks
said.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw him live here in Minneapolis at First Avenue, the famous
Okay.
First Avenue,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
has, I think, maybe a capacity of like 1,300. You couldn't even move an inch in this place. But
Cool.
at that time, it was the biggest show they had done he had done as a headliner. And he's
Wow.
just like, second song, he's like, you guys, this is amazing. I mean, like, as if he was talking to like 30 people in the room. It was the
That's cool.
coolest. You just felt it. You know what I mean? You just
Yep.
felt so good that this guy is winning.
Yeah.
And
That's the
that
venue where Prince recorded Purple Rain, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the famous First Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah. First Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Maybe one
stuff.
day we'll get a book from Wolfgang.
Hopefully I'll be around to read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, Eric, man, thank you so much. I can talk to you all night. So I was, if I lived nearby, I'd be bugging you to grab a beer every other day
Oh,
at
my
least.
pleasure, man.
We could talk about this stuff forever.
No, we got to meet up with me, you, and Darren. Darren's closer to me than where you're in
Sure.
Minneapolis. I'm in Connecticut. Darren's in Long Island. So
Yeah.
if you're ever
Yeah.
on his way,
Darren and I have never met in person.
yeah,
So, I mean, just I've been out in New York a couple times, Long Island. We just couldn't connect or whatever,
yeah,
but someday.
we'll
So,
make it
yeah.
happen. We'll make it
Yeah.
happen. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, Steve. I love the new podcast. So
Thank you. My
you've
pleasure. Maybe this will be an annual thing. We'll do
sure,
another cool rock podcast, Booked on Rock, holiday gift guide recommendations next
yeah,
year. So
and I'll be talking to you tomorrow about Martin Popoff's Kiss book.
there you go, man. Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Hold on one second.